Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome to the showdown between the Beastmen led by Malagor the Dark Omen and the Greenskins who are going to be led by the Baconator atop his mighty pig. So without further ado, let's jump right into this match and have some fun. So up here in Vanguard, I do have two groups of the Centaurs with throwing axes, and they're definitely, I think, pretty much a must bring against the Greenskins. Number one, if your opponent does decide to bring the Arachnaut Queen, it's one of the few answers the Beastmen really have against the Arachnaut Queen. You can use Minotaurs, and of course there are the Korok's Man Rippers and a couple other options, but Minotaurs, of course, have to get up close, and then they're going to be attacked by Biggins and other supporting units. So not quite as effective at taking down spiders and big targets as the Centaurs with throwing axes, in my opinion. On top of that, they're pretty good at skirmishing with 95 speed. They can outrun most of the Greenskin roster. It looks like Goblin Wolf Riders are, I think they're one of the faster units, and they only have 92 speed. Only have 92. That's actually pretty good, but regardless, the Centaurs can get some free harass on pretty much any of the Greenskin infantry, and Black Orcs are also something you do see in this matchup, and they're a pretty good answer to Black Orcs as well. So I really think that you pretty much have to bring a couple groups. For my main line, it's going to be a very aggressive force. We do have a couple groups of best score herds, so 3 in total, which are going to make up my front line, and we're also trying something completely different. So this is actually going to be the first of 2 videos today, so they're a little bit quicker battles, but both of them are kind of showcasing new strategies here. In Malagor the Dark Omen, we're not going to be using him as a Cygor bot. He's actually going to be using his spells. So we do have Devolve, which is an AoE damage spell, and it also does lower leadership, which I thought, hey, might not be bad against the Greenskins. Then we're also going to be using the Mantle of Gorok to just basically make our Minotaurs into linebackers, because their armor's already really bad, so I figured that the offensive stats you get from that, which are insane, 44 melee attack, 40 armor piercing damage, as well as 40% weapon damage, is pretty ludicrous. It's really, really powerful. And of course, you don't really care about the armor on them anyway. So we're going to be trying that. We have one group of Harpies to chase down archers, go after skirmishing units, just kind of serve our general purpose there. 2 groups of Centaurs, so each is going to be the standard variant. So standard variant Centaurs, very good for harassing the back line. Also very good at chasing down Goblin Archers, the Rustiers, all that kind of stuff. And each is going to be teamed up with Poison Warhounds, and they make an excellent counter against Greenskin skirmishers. Number one, they're faster, they have better vigor, so they're not going to get tired, and they do also have shield. So if you're chasing down Morgubs or these other units like this, they're going to be a little bit more durable than some other Cav variants. For my opponent, he has an entire front line of Savage Orc Biggins, 2 Goblin Big Bosses, Baconator, a bunch of nasty Skulkers to protect and kind of muck down big units and Cav and stuff like that. He does have a very heavy harass contingent, so Morgubs, Mangy Marauders, Forest Goblin Spider Riders, as well as the Depths Creepers. So man, it's gonna get pretty wild in here. So without further ado, let's get this show on the road. So right now in the front, you can see I'm getting some good harass here. I'm able to take down, it looks like a 69 rounds, that's what she said. So we get some pretty good damage there, continuing to throw in and just, doing quite a bit against those guys. But a little bit sloppy on my part. I do take a charge from the Goblin Wolf Riders, who might be able to get a couple kills there. It looks like they do pick off a handful, which is unfortunate, but on the retreat, I do also get some kills, and you can see I'm going to countercharge with my Centaurs and other troops here, but a very good effigy of the get from my opponent. So he effigies down my Centaurs here, and he's going to get a pretty good charge with the Goblins, but, they're going to put up a good fight against the Goblins. I rush in my Poison Hounds, and as long as I can kind of get away before the Savage Orcs get there, I should be fine. On the far side, I was able to catch his Forest Goblin Spider Riders, and also catch his Depths Creepers here. Poison Hound's very fast, Centaur's very fast and durable against these type of troops, so things are going pretty well in that front. But now it's the frontline fight. So the Wa is going to be going down here. Vestigors are very good against Savage Orcs because of their heavy armor. And, the Savage Orc Biggins are pretty much a counter against Minotaurs, but the Minotaurs on top of Vestigors are certainly going to be better. So you can see they're just monster mashing in here, going to be cleaving, doing a ton of damage, and I'm sure the Global Wa has gone off. So you can see these guys are taking a ton of damage. But the Vestigors, with their shock damage, are really doing well in the front line. They're actually winning in several instances here. Yeah, pretty much on every front. So the Savage Orcs here, despite the Wa, are getting pounded. In the middle, they're doing very, very well, considering it's like a 3v1. And over here, the Minotaurs and company are able to just blitzkrieg. So we were actually able to counter-push the Wa ability of the Greenskins. Granted, Black Orcs, I think we would have done the same thing to Black Orcs, because Minotaurs and Vestigors both have really good AP. In the back line, the Goblin Big Boss is kind of chasing me, so I'm going to be using these Chaos Poison Warhounds to try and peel him. And you can see the Centaurs with throwing axes just doing a great job, just kind of circling, getting some decent damage here. And you can see the Savage Orc Biggins are actually shaking right now. Balance of power is pretty even. Some of these Savage Orcs are fighting, and they're actually starting to win in the center engagement versus the Vestigors, which I was a little bit surprised about. But these guys do have very aggressive combat stats with a 40 melee attacker. It looks like 53 actually, and 42 weapon strength. And I think that's because of the Bonewood staff. Yeah, it looks like it is. But of Gork going down right there, it looks like it was a bit of a swing and a miss. I think it was right on the left side of my formation. And I was able to push those guys in, and you can see here we do have Wurzog kind of surrounded, and he's going to be circled. They're just goats and sheep flying in the air, but these Minotaurs should be able to kind of polish him off, as they do have really high mass, and he's probably not going to escape. In the meantime, the Greenskins don't have too many serious threats left. There was a group of Savage Orc Biggins who came up and around the flank, but the Minotaurs are going to charge in. Obviously not a good situation for them, but throwing axes and Vestigors kind of following in suit. Investigores, one of the things they have over other great weapon infantry is they have a really good charge bonus. So anytime you're using Investigores, you always want to make sure that you're going to be getting a charge, because you can see it's actually 35, which is really, really insane. And I think the Savage Orcs have a good one of 37 as well, but they're also known for that. In the meantime, the Baconator is trying to escape, so you can see that my Centaur's Throwing Axe is a very solid unit because they serve a bit of a dual purpose. They're also quite good in melee, with 32 melee weapon strength. So we're just going to chase down the Baconator, while also avoiding these nasty Skulkers who could potentially do some damage. Skulkers are going to be rushing in. It looks like they did break off one group of my Vestigores here, and I think that was a Devolve that I just got off, which is actually, like I said, very good against Goblins and like low-tier troops. It'll immediately make a pretty big dent in their leadership. Malagor does also have some other leadership qualities as well. Well, negative ones for your opponent. He has something wicked comes his way. So if you cast Devolve, plus he's just nearby, it's going to be negative 12 leadership, which against a Goblin is huge. So I definitely think he might have a bit of a niche in this matchup. The Mantle of Grok was really good. Devolve was definitely pretty solid. And at this point, it's basically just cleanup. You can see there's the Warlords boys and a couple other troops are coming back in here, but they were defending in the back line, I guess. I'm not sure. Or maybe they were chasing something, because that group is very, very healthy. I'm not sure how that happened. Regardless, the Savage Orc Biggins are in here fighting a pretty hard fight, but the Vestigore is performing very well. And yeah, that's pretty much it from here. It's going to be all she wrote for the Greenskins, as all he has left are the Warlords boys, and his army is going to shatter. So very well played to my opponent. I was a little bit nervous, actually, when I first went in there. I actually thought that the Savage Orcs were just going to massacre me with the WoW ability, but the Vestigores held incredibly well. They did their job. They beat down the Savage Orcs and ultimately allowed the Minotaurs to actually shine. I mean, not a ton of kills, but they had a ton of HP damage. They're mobile, they're sticking and moving. And, you know, the answers my opponent had for the Minotaurs, aside from the Savage Orcs, who had to do a little bit of work to get to them, were the Morgib's Magi Marauders and the Forest Goblin Spider Riders and the Death's Creepers and all of those guys. And they pretty much got shut down by my counter skirmishing from the Centaurs with the shields as well as the Hounds. So, and I did like Malagor. I liked him quite a bit. Chaos Spawn are really good in this matchup, but again, Chaos Spawn probably would have just gotten just whomped on by those Savage Orc Biggins. So there's some give and take. The Devolve was really good for perpetual AoE damage, and I definitely cannot complain. But of course, we did get a really lucky catch on Warzog. He engaged with the Savage Orcs thinking it would be safe, and he kind of got surrounded after his flank got overrun. So that was pretty lucky as well. Anyways, well played to my opponent, Berserker. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. And guys, we're going to jump over to the second game. See you soon. All right, guys, so now we're back with the second game, which is going to be a showdown between Norsca and the Dark Elves. So as far as my army goes, we're going to be using Throg the Troll King, and I think I have a Shadowcaster with like Melkoth's Pendulum as well as Enfeebling Foe. But aside from that, we do have a front line of the Marauder Champions, which I definitely think are going to be one of the safer picks. And after this match and looking at my opponent's army composition, I was like, damn it, I should have brought a lot more. You can just see like all these Blackheart Corsairs with handbows in the front line. I don't think he has any true melee besides these Dread Spears and a couple of Cav units, so it's going to be a pretty hog-wild fight for sure. So in the front, we got the Marauder Champions. We do also have a secondary line of Berserkers, which are pretty good against traditional infantry-focused Dark Elf builds, but against this one, it's going to be a little bit interesting to see how they go. We have the Maws of Savagery, who are going to be joined by the Norscan Ice Wolves, providing us an anti-large kit as well as Frostbite. Over here, we do also have the Miststalkers, the Famir RORs, and we have Norscan Warhounds over there. Pretty narrow army, and we do also have one group of Marauder Ice Wolf Chariots, which are very good against like builds like this. Like Marauder Ice Wolf Chariot has Frostbite, it has AP, anti-infantry, so if you're able to ride through your opponents like Blackheart Corsairs with the handbows, you can slow them down, allow your other troops to catch up, and get pretty good value. But ultimately, looking at my opponent's army, it's pretty scary. He does have an entire front line of Blackheart Corsairs. He's got some Cold One Chariots, Cold One Knights. He does have a Supreme Sorceress of Death for Fated Buna and Spirit Leech. So no jokes here. It's all business for sure with this gap in the air. And it looks like some more Cold One Knights as well as Cold One Chariots. And the Slaanesh Harvesters, who are going to be joined by a standard group of Doomfire Warlocks. So anyways, guys, let's get the show on the road. So these guys are going to advance. I actually don't think I saw them until it was very, very late. So I do send in the Norscan Warhounds, just thinking it was a single group, but then the second ones came out. I was like, okay, maybe I can hold them in position, allow my Berserkers to kind of sandwich them. But they actually eradicated my Hounds so fast, I didn't even get a chance to catch up. So I was like, man, those guys, those Warlocks hit pretty damn hard. In the meantime, the rest of my forces are pushing out of the forest, but as soon as I saw this army, I was like, oh man, it's going to be tough to catch them. The champion's not taking much damage because of their shields and armor, so I was happy about that. In the meantime, my Famir Balefiend and the rest of the forces are going to start chasing these Corsairs and hopefully generating some decent value. You can see I'm rushing out, and this is pretty ideal. You want your champions to be taking that arrow fire, but it looks like they might be committing to an engagement. It's hard to tell right now. Basically, it just looks like a massive retreat from the Dark Elves, which is good because it's a kiting build, so I think ultimately it's going to be doing the most work that way. So these Marauder Champions just kind of blitzing forward, and they did get a little bit ahead of, or the Berserkers did get a little bit ahead of the Champions, which is unfortunate, but we're just trying our best to catch them. Right here you can see my Norscan Ice Wolves are able to catch these Cold One Chariots, applying Frostbite, which is really good because that means that my Maws of Savagery could catch up and we'll definitely probably get some kills there, so that'll be good. In the meantime, the Famir Warriors and other troops are pushing through, but there are some Cold One Knights and a very good play from my opponent. So he uses Fate of Buna on the protecting units. Thankfully for me, they were the Brutes of the Hound, so they're not going to go quietly into the Knight and just kind of rout off from the draw of damage. Now the Miststalkers and other troops are fighting the Cold One Knights, but I wasn't as concerned because the Berserkers are going to be very good. I had a lot of supporting troops. You can see the Maws of Savagery in here as well, so we have a very bloody fight. You can see the Maws of Savagery are pimp slapping some of these guys. The Fluffy Wolves are doing a pretty good job as well. And I also did get a pendulum against those guys over there, but it was a tough situation. So my Berserkers couldn't really catch them. 42 speed against 40 here, so they're actually a little bit faster, but I was just taking so much damage on the approach, I figured it probably wasn't worth it. In the meantime, my Cold One Chariot is going to be riding back here and trying to do some damage to the Blackheart Corsairs. If it can get there, the 85 armor, it's going to be pretty durable, and here it comes. It's kind of just, strafing, and I think I actually switched to this group because they were a little bit out of position. So the Angry Wolves, just look at them all frantic. They're going to start running these guys over, hopefully doing some damage, but at the very least, they are occupying 3 groups back here and are taking minimal damage. In the meantime, a good, I think that was from the Doomfire Warlocks. It looks like a lesser Doombolt was able to do some work, but the rear charge from these Doomfire Warlocks doing a pretty good job against my champs, and it looks like the Chariot's also doing some pretty heavy damage to the Marauder Berserkers. In the meantime, though, this was kind of the big deciding fight, and I really thought I had the advantage here, but ultimately those Slaanesha's Harvesters and those other troops down here held very well. We did punish my opponent's Cold One Knights as well as the Corsairs, and his Chariot got beat up, but it looks like he still does have those Harvesters fighting, and he does land his Supreme Sorcerers, which is a very risky move. And you can see for the first time in the game, Bounce Power is in my opponent's favor, but he does land the Sorceress, and with every club that Throg is getting here, he's doing some pretty good damage, but a very solid Word of Pain from the Slaanesha's Harvesters here are definitely saving the Sorceress, but I also respond with an Enfeebling Foe, which makes it that much easier to hit. So a very, very close battle at this point. Granted, I'm taking a lot of casualties on the flanks. The Chariots doing an okay job. You can see they did a ton of damage to this group, but still there's 2 full health groups there. Up on the high ground, the Doomfire Warlocks, as well as this Chariot, which is rampaging, are doing okay. The champions are, looks like they do have a couple tiers of rage. It looks like they're probably on their 1st or 2nd tier, but it also looks like the Murderous Mastery has gone off for the Dark Elves. So that's going to give them a big spike. And unfortunately, this battle down here, which I committed pretty much all of my resources to, like Throg and a couple of the other tools and my Miststalkers, and I wasn't able to win that, which I was really surprised about. And I think that was partially due to the fact that the Slaanesha's Harvesters were applying poison, as well as the I believe it was Soul Blight from the other group was able to do some pretty good mitigation. Up here, we do pretty well for ourselves. We're able to break this group. The Caster, the Famir Balefiend, and the Berserkers and Champions win this engagement pretty handily. In the Chariot, this guy is doing heavy lifting. I was like, man, I wish I had like 2 of these. It could have really shut down these Corsairs and netted me some pretty good value. But ultimately, like I said, I think the big issue was like this engagement down here, which is just an absolute bloodbath. And it really didn't go that bad, but I still think I got the shorter end of the stick. We did get the Cold One Knights, but I lost Throg. He kind of got caught out, and even though he's really healthy, I was like, man, why is he running? But the Cold One Knights were able to rally, get another charge, and from there, that's pretty much going to be all she wrote. So very well played. It was a pretty brutal kiting build for sure, and I think that's one of the big weaknesses of Norsca. As such, I think I would probably adjust my build a little bit. I'd probably honestly just cut the Berserkers, just get more champions, go for durability, because if you cut the Berserkers, cut all 3, just get, 2 more Marauder champions. Actually, you might be able to get almost 3 with depending on the gold, but cut those guys. Maybe you want to cut, I don't know, the Maws of Savagery did okay, but maybe just cut those and get like Marauder Spears, and then just force your opponent out of ammunition, have a really slow advance. You can get a 2nd Chariot. I really don't think the Maws of Savagery performed very well against the Cold One Knights, and but yeah, it was cool. It was definitely a very good learning experience. I think in the Dark Elf matchup in the future, I'm just going to cut the Berserkers and get the Champions. Champions punish light armor just like Berserkers do, and they're tankier against like very kitey skirmishy builds like this, and I really think if I just cut the Marauder Berserkers and gotten a couple champs, cut the Maws of Savagery, get some spears, and just go very like defensive and just kind of advance, it would have been a little bit better. But very well played to my opponent. We'll just call him level 58 Death Knight. Look forward to running into you again on ladder, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this 2-for-1. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.